There is a particular sound that a phone notification makes when an insurance renewal arrives, a sound most people have trained themselves to ignore until the number on the screen forces them to stop what they are doing. For millions of Americans who purchased an electric vehicle in the last few years, that notification has become something closer to a small shock, a figure significantly higher than what they had budgeted, and in many cases, substantially more than what their neighbor pays for a comparable gasoline-powered sedan parked in the same driveway. The difference is not trivial. According to data compiled across all 50 states and published in early 2026, the average annual full coverage premium for a battery electric vehicle in the United States now sits at roughly $3,281, while the national average for a conventional gasoline car hovers somewhere around $2,150 to $2,500, depending on the data set and the methodology behind it. That gap, which can translate to anywhere from $700 to over $1,000 a year, has become one of the most quietly consequential financial realities of the electric transition. And yet most buyers only discover it after they have already signed the purchase agreement. To understand why this gap exists and whether it is likely to persist requires looking well beyond the sticker price of either vehicle. It requires entering the unglamorous interior of the insurance industry itself, a world governed not by enthusiasm for new technology or environmental aspiration, but by actuarial tables, claims data, repair invoices, and the cold arithmetic of probable loss. Insurance companies do not charge more for electric vehicles because they dislike them or because they are resistant to change. They charge more because, at this moment in the technology's development, insuring an electric vehicle costs them more when something goes wrong. The reasons are specific, measurable, and in some cases deeply structural, rooted in the way these cars are designed, the way they are repaired, and the supply chains that support them. The most significant cost driver is the battery pack itself. In a conventional vehicle, the most expensive component that might be damaged in a collision is typically the engine. But engines are rarely destroyed in low to moderate speed impacts because they sit behind a crumple zone engineered over many decades to absorb and redirect force. The battery pack of an electric vehicle, by contrast, is a large flat structure that runs along the undercarriage of the car, often spanning nearly the entire wheelbase. This placement is brilliant from an engineering standpoint because it lowers the center of gravity, improves handling, and maximizes interior space. But it also means that the single most expensive component in the vehicle, often accounting for 30 to 40% of its total cost, is positioned in a location where it can be exposed to road debris, curb strikes, and the kind of undercarriage impacts that would cause only cosmetic damage to a traditional car. A battery pack for a mid-range electric vehicle can cost between $10,000 and $25,000 to replace. In some luxury models, the figure climbs higher, and until very recently, many of these packs were not designed to be repaired at the module level. If a diagnostic scan revealed potential cell damage in even a small section, the entire unit sometimes had to be replaced, pushing the total repair bill past the threshold at which an insurer would simply declare the vehicle a total loss. A car with 12,000 miles on the odometer, superficially undamaged, written off because a battery scan showed an anomaly that no one could affordably investigate further. This dynamic is beginning to shift. Newer vehicle platforms from several manufacturers are moving toward more modular battery architectures that allow individual modules to be assessed and replaced without discarding the entire pack. But the installed base of electric vehicles on the road today still includes millions of units built with earlier, less repairable designs, and the insurance rates that drivers see in 2026 are still heavily influenced by the claims data generated by those vehicles over the past several years. Beyond the battery, there is the matter of body construction. Many electric vehicles, particularly those from Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid, use extensive aluminum in their body panels and structural frames. Aluminum is lighter than steel, which extends range, but it is also significantly more difficult and expensive to repair. It cannot be straightened using the same techniques that body shops apply to steel panels. It requires specialized welding equipment, dedicated tooling, and technicians who have been specifically trained and certified to work with it. A fender repair that might cost $400 on a steel-bodied gasoline car can easily cost $1,200 on an aluminum-bodied electric vehicle, not because the damage is worse, but because the material demands a fundamentally different process. Then there is the question of who can actually perform these repairs. The traditional auto repair ecosystem in the United States is vast, with tens of thousands of independent shops and dealership service centers capable of working on virtually any gasoline-powered vehicle. The electric vehicle repair ecosystem, by comparison, is still nascent. Many manufacturers, Tesla most prominently, restrict access to proprietary diagnostic software and replacement parts, funneling repairs through their own service centers or a small number of approved facilities. This concentration of repair capability creates a bottleneck. Wait times for parts can stretch to weeks. Labor rates at authorized facilities tend to be higher than at independent shops. And for insurers, longer repair times translate directly into higher costs because they are often covering a rental vehicle for the policyholder during the entire wait. The advanced driver assistance systems that are now standard on most electric vehicles add another layer to the cost equation. Cameras, radar units, ultrasonic sensors, and LiDAR modules are integrated into bumpers, mirrors, windshields, and body panels throughout these vehicles. A collision that cracks a front bumper cover on a conventional car might require only a replacement bumper and a fresh coat of paint. The same impact on an electric vehicle equipped with forward-facing radar and camera modules can require not only the physical replacement of those sensors, but also a precise recalibration process, sometimes involving specialized alignment rigs and software that only the manufacturer provides. These recalibrations can add $500 to $2,000 to a repair bill that would otherwise be routine. All of these factors compound. Higher vehicle purchase prices mean higher replacement values, which increase the ceiling on what an insurer might have to pay in a total loss scenario. Proprietary components mean less price competition in the parts supply chain. Specialized labor means fewer shops competing to offer lower rates. Longer repair cycles mean extended rental coverage, and the relative novelty of the technology means that insurers are still building the actuarial models they need to price risk with confidence. For much of the past decade, the insurance industry has been pricing electric vehicle policies with limited historical data, relying partly on extrapolation from gasoline vehicle loss patterns and partly on the early claims experience of a relatively small EV fleet. As that fleet has grown, the data has improved, but it has also confirmed many of the cost concerns that drove higher premiums in the first place. The experience in China offers a revealing parallel. China is the world's largest electric vehicle market, with over 43 million new energy vehicles insured by the end of 2025. Chinese insurers have reported a combined operating ratio for electric vehicle policies that has consistently exceeded 100%, meaning they have been paying out more in claims and operating costs than they have been collecting in premiums. In 2024, the combined ratio stood at 107%, an improvement over the 109% recorded in 2023, but still representing a net loss on every electric vehicle policy written. Chinese insurers have found that new energy vehicle owners tend to be younger on average, drive more aggressively, and are roughly twice as likely to file a claim as owners of conventional vehicles. Whether those behavioral patterns will hold as the EV market matures and broadens demographically remains to be seen. But the Chinese data has served as an early warning signal for insurers worldwide, illustrating that the cost challenges of electric vehicle coverage are not a peculiarity of any single market. And yet the headline figure that electric vehicles cost roughly 40 to 50% more to insure than gasoline cars obscures an enormous amount of variation. The Chevrolet Silverado EV, one of the least expensive electric vehicles to insure in the United States, carries an average annual premium of just under $2,000 for full coverage, a figure that is competitive with, and in some cases lower than, many popular gasoline-powered trucks and SUVs, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the Subaru Solterra, the Nissan Leaf, the Volkswagen ID4, and several Chevrolet and Toyota models all come in below $2,300 per year, which places them squarely in the range of mainstream gasoline vehicles. At the other extreme, the Audi SQ8 e-tron, a high-performance luxury electric SUV, carries an average annual premium exceeding $10,400, a figure that reflects not just its electric powertrain, but its luxury positioning, its high replacement value, and the cost of sourcing and installing its proprietary components. Tesla vehicles, which dominate the electric market in terms of volume, fall somewhere in between, but consistently rank among the more expensive models to insure, with the Model Y at roughly $3,300 and the Model S at over $4,300. The lesson embedded in these numbers is that the insurance cost of an electric vehicle is not primarily a function of it being electric. It is a function of which electric vehicle it is, who made it, how repairable it is, and how extensive its parts and service network happens to be. This is where the conversation starts to become more nuanced than the simple binary of electric versus gasoline. A buyer cross-shopping a Hyundai Ioniq 5 against a Toyota RAV4 will find that the insurance premium difference, while real, is modest enough to be offset by the fuel savings and reduced maintenance costs that the electric vehicle offers. Electric vehicles have no oil to change, no transmission fluid to service, no timing belts to replace, no exhaust system to corrode. Industry estimates suggest that the average electric vehicle costs roughly $300 to $400 less per year in maintenance than a comparable gasoline car. Fuel savings vary widely by geography, driving habits, and local electricity rates, but for many drivers, particularly those who charge at home during off-peak hours, the per-mile cost of electricity is less than half the per-mile cost of gasoline. When these savings are factored against a higher insurance premium, the total cost of ownership calculation becomes more balanced than the insurance number alone would suggest. What is perhaps most interesting about this moment is that it represents a transitional phase, a period during which the insurance industry is still adapting its models, its repair networks, and its risk assessments to a technology that is fundamentally different from the one it has spent a century learning to price. There are structural reasons to believe that the gap will continue to narrow. As electric vehicles become more common, the repair ecosystem will expand, more technicians will be trained, more independent shops will invest in the equipment needed to service high-voltage systems. Aftermarket parts suppliers will begin to offer alternatives to proprietary components. Introducing price competition, battery designs will continue to evolve toward greater modularity and repairability. And as the installed base of electric vehicles grows, insurers will accumulate the depth of claims data they need to refine their models with greater precision, potentially identifying segments of the EV market where the actual risk is lower than current premiums reflect. The rise of telematics-based insurance represents another force that could reshape the landscape. Tesla already offers its own insurance product in 13 states, using a real-time safety score derived from vehicle data to set monthly premiums. Drivers who brake gently, maintain safe following distances, and avoid aggressive cornering can see their rates drop significantly. The model inverts the traditional insurance paradigm, which prices risk based on broad demographic categories and historical averages, and replaces it with a continuous, individualized assessment of actual driving behavior. Other manufacturers and insurers are developing similar programs, and the inherent connectivity of electric vehicles, which are essentially rolling sensor platforms, makes them natural candidates for this kind of pricing. If telematics-based insurance becomes widespread, the question of whether someone drives an electric or gasoline vehicle may become less important than how they drive it. There is a historical analogy worth considering. When automobiles first appeared on American roads in the late 1890s, they were exotic, expensive, and poorly understood by the insurance industry. The first known auto insurance policy was written in 1897 for a man named Gilbert Loomis in Dayton, Ohio, and it cost him roughly the equivalent of what a worker might earn in a month. Early automobile insurance was expensive, not because cars were inherently more dangerous than horses, though they were certainly perceived that way, but because insurers had no actuarial framework for assessing the risk. There were no decades of claims data, no standardized repair processes, no established networks of garages. The industry was pricing in the dark, and it charged accordingly. As the automobile became ubiquitous, as repair infrastructure matured, as data accumulated, premiums found their level. The electric vehicle is tracing a similar arc, compressed into a much shorter time frame by the pace of modern technology and manufacturing, but following the same fundamental trajectory from expensive novelty to normalized, well-understood risk. For a buyer sitting in a dealership or configuring a vehicle on a manufacturer's website today, the practical implications are concrete. The insurance premium for an electric vehicle is almost certainly going to be higher than for a comparable gasoline model, but the magnitude of that difference depends heavily on the specific vehicle chosen. Selecting a mainstream model from a manufacturer with an established service network, Hyundai, Kia, Chevrolet, Toyota, Volkswagen, Nissan, will result in a meaningfully lower premium than choosing a Tesla, a Rivian, or a luxury European electric. Shopping for quotes from multiple insurers before committing to a purchase can reveal significant price variation, as different carriers assess EV risk differently. Bundling home and auto policies, maintaining a clean driving record, and enrolling in telematics or usage-based programs where available can all help reduce the cost. And critically, the insurance premium should be evaluated not in isolation, but as one component of a total cost of ownership that also includes fuel, maintenance, depreciation, and any applicable tax credits or incentives. The gap between electric and gasoline vehicle insurance is real. It is measurable, and for some models it is substantial, but it is not fixed, it is not uniform, and it is not permanent. It is, in a meaningful sense, the price of a transition still in progress, a reflection of an industry working to understand a technology that has not yet finished revealing what it will cost to live with. The numbers will continue to move, the infrastructure will continue to mature, the data will continue to accumulate, and at some point, likely within the next several years, the question of what it costs to insure an electric vehicle will be no more remarkable than the question of what it costs to insure any other car, because the answer will simply be that it depends on the car, the driver, and the circumstances, the same answer the insurance industry has always given, once it has had enough time to learn.